Today on Teach Me How to Vegan. It's not like everyone goes vegan and then one or two people fall off, but everyone else is perfect. Like, that's not how it plays out. Everyone goes vegan and then everyone falls off, except maybe one or two people don't fall off.
Right.
But
and it's not this like massive fall off. We're talking about like when you have an imperfect moment. It's not about like, oh, I failed so bad, throw everything away. I'm done, I can't do it. No. Have grace with yourself. There's going to be imperfection.
And it doesn't mean I'm not vegan anymore. Let me just go eat burgers and eggs all the time now because I messed up one time. I had one mess up, get right back to it, and keep it going. Welcome to Teach Me How to Vegan,
a podcast where we explore how to switch to a vegan diet.
I'm Tony, a health educator, fitness instructor, and plant-based eating program manager for Animal Protection of New Mexico.
I'm Mickey, a stay-at-home homeschooling mom and vegan cook who likes to play in the kitchen.
Our family stopped eating meat in 2007.
And we went vegan in 2016. Now we like to share with others what we've learned.
Thanks for joining us.
Let's get started.
Welcome to the show. As always, thank you for joining us. Today we're talking about staying vegan and looking at a new study that came out that looked at, what might help people stay vegan, right? And we thought this would be an interesting episode to do. One, because we did an episode on staying motivated a while back, and that was one of our more popular episodes. So, I think people are really looking for ways to stay motivated, ways to help you stay the course, really. Yes. And then as I was reading this study, I just felt like this is a lot of stuff that people can apply to their own lives, to help them stay the course, stay vegan.
Yeah.
Right.
And then to reiterate some of the things that we said before sort of came up, I think, in this study.
Exactly. Because it was very in line with everything we've presented.
Yeah.
So, which is a nice...
a happy accident?
Or a nice... affirmation for us.
Yeah.
Lets us know that
we didn't say anything too out of left field
or even out of left field at all, really. Everything has been really in alignment with what they're saying. And so we'll get more into the details as we get into the discussion, of course, but it was just really nice, like, looking at the podcast, looking at the things we've presented, like, this is very much in line with it. And so it's good to recap some of those points, revisit some of those points. If this is your first time tuning in, it's a great, review of some of the things we've talked about. Or it's just a good review if you have listened to everything,
Yeah.
But yeah, the study, I think, is aimed toward like activists or, people who are trying to do the work, like you and I.
So I think they wanted to do this study because so many activist groups are encouraging people to go more plant-based as a means to help whatever advocacy they're talking about, whether it's environmentalism, social justice, animal rights, health. Like, there's a lot of reduce your meat consumption rhetoric being put out there by a variety of different groups. And so those campaigns, they wanted to look at like what those campaigns, like for an individual, how that showed up for them.
Yeah. And the group that did this study, Faunalytics, so they look at, like, that's what they do. They look at researching how to help, essentially how to help forward the vegan movement or the animal rights movement and things like that. And, using evidence-based approaches, basically.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's not a lot of information or a lot of data and research about helping and retaining people who try plant-based, who want to go vegan or vegetarian. And so all of that information is limited. So they wanted to extra look at this to have something to contribute to that lacking, to fill in that gap.
Exactly. Yeah. Typically, I'm like anti anytime somebody's like a new study found or a new study showed. I'm like, that's not going to tell us anything. But if there's not a lot of data or a very limited data, then a new study is really exciting and helpful to give us some information.
Yeah. And it's interesting because one of the things in their introduction is like they don't want people to treat veganism and vegetarianism, we'll just say vegan, as a fad diet. I guess a previous study they did showed that there were far more former vegans than current ones. A lot of people who just tried it for only a short time. And so this study was looking at like, how do you get people to stay the course and stay motivated and make that a more permanent change.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so real quick, just to cover it, so the title is Going Vegan or Vegetarian, Many Paths to One Goal. It's a report from Faunalytics longitudinal study. Of course, the study is linked in the show notes, so you can read the full report and go into all the details. Mainly what we're going to talk about is the conclusion, sort of the key findings, and, have a discussion about that.
Yeah.
And without getting too much in the weeds of all the researchy stuff, right?
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, just, maybe worth noting that it was really well done, well designed, decent sample size for people who are wondering.
Yeah.
With limitations, of course, but,
yeah.
Again, all that information's there. But we felt like it's worth discussing.
Well, because the key findings, as you say, go back to ways we've talked about going vegan and then also staying motivated. So
Exactly. All right. So let's get into the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick. In their study, they were looking at people going vegan and also people going vegetarian.
Yeah.
And so they kind of did the report together, and they used this word VEG *N to mean vegan and or vegetarian. So maybe when we discuss it, we could just say veg.
Veg.
People went veg, whether that means vegan or vegetarian, right?
Yeah. I think that sounds good.
Okay, so we'll go with that. So that's what we mean. All right. So the first key finding was that most people transition to veganism or vegetarianism gradually. Only 21% of people went veg overnight, which sounds like not really surprising, right? We talked about going vegan overnight, but, for us, it was a little bit different of a situation because we were already vegetarian.
We were
certainly didn't go vegetarian overnight.
No, we didn't.
That was a gradual thing.
That was,
and then we went vegan overnight. So you could still say our vegan journey was not overnight.
Correct.
And or gradual. And that's the case for most people.
Yes.
Right. So, and that's why we did the episode Baby Steps to Veganism.
Yes.
So we could talk about different ways that you could approach going vegan, right? And we got into detail of you could like cut one thing out each week, for example.
And yeah, and so if you can go back to that if you need those pointers specifically, but I think it's good to know that like that's what the majority of people are doing. So if you feel like you're taking forever or you're going too slow or you're not making progress, then maybe it's time to pick up the pace a little bit for yourself if that's what you're feeling. But if nothing else, know you're not alone.
Right.
That's what I take away from this, is that the majority of people, if only 21% went veg overnight, that leaves 79% that did it gradually. So that is a clear majority there. You're good.
Right.
And then it looks like it was sort of split of like 38% did it over a few weeks and then 34% over many weeks or a few months and then a minority of like 7 over many months.
Right.
And so you have people doing it whatever pace you're doing it at.
Exactly. And I think another important takeaway is that there wasn't any difference in their likelihood to continue long term.
Right. That was another finding.
Whether you did it overnight or it took you 6 months or even longer, that wasn't an indicator as to whether or not you would stick with
to
it.
Right. And so that was key finding 2.
Right. Oh, I got ahead of myself. Never mind. Well, I guess we can jump into it if you want to. But
I think that was a good segue.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, that's key finding 2. And I think this is huge. I don't know why I thought I read it somewhere else, but this is really comforting to know. It's like, it's helpful to know that it's more important to do what works for you individually, right?
Yeah.
Because key finding 2 is for people who reduce gradually, we found no significant evidence that any one reduction method works better than another.
Right. Whether you went overnight or you did it gradually, and if you did it gradually over months as opposed to over a few weeks, there was not a likelihood of it's going to quote unquote stick better doing it one way over the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we've always talked about. Like, it's more important to do what works for you.
Yes.
Individually. If you do better at the faster pace movement or you feel the need to go overnight and you think that's going to work best for you, that's the way to go. If you don't, if that doesn't sound appealing to you, find a plan that's more slow, more your pace.
Right.
And that's more likely to work for you, and there's no difference in likelihood that you'll stick with it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so I feel like we talked about that a lot in our baby steps to
We did.
veganism episode.
Yeah. So again, reassurance that like you're committed to doing this, stay the course, go at your own pace, and you are not alone.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just
And
know all those things.
Yeah.
Let us reassure you.
they also said that people who transition more slowly tended to feel less successful. That was in the key finding 1.
Oh, okay.
Just to backtrack. So this is good to know that like it doesn't mean you're less successful. You just feel less successful. Maybe because other people, you feel like you should be moving faster, you should be doing better. And that's pretty par for the course with any change we do these days, right?
But it also said that those people were just as likely to continue.
Mm-hmm.
No matter, like, with the other people who were going, quote unquote, faster.
Yep, exactly. So whatever works for you, do it. So that takes us to key finding 3.
Mm-hmm.
When going veg, imperfection is the rule rather than the exception. Where have I heard this before? I think it was exactly what I said in our Stages of Change episode when I said that lapse and relapse is an inevitable part of the process.
Yes.
We all do it.
Yep.
It's not like everyone goes vegan and then 1 or 2 people fall off, but everyone else is perfect. Like, that's not how it plays out. Everyone goes vegan and then everyone falls off, except maybe 1 or 2 people don't fall off.
Right.
But
and it's not this like massive fall off. We're talking about like when you relapse, when you have an imperfect moment. It's not about like, oh, I failed so bad, throw everything away.
Mm-hmm.
Throw it all out the window. I'm done. I can't do it. It's no, have grace with yourself. There's no perfect way to be a human. There's no perfect way to do anything in this world, let alone change the way you eat. You know, that's so ingrained in our cultures in a lot of times. So
right.
There's going to be imperfection. There's going to be falling off the wagon, quote unquote, or a relapse or whatever. And then and
it doesn't mean I'm not vegan anymore. Let me just go eat burgers and eggs all the time now because I messed up one time. I had one mess up, get right back to it and keep it going. So just know that. Again, like I think we talked about this in the Stages of Change, that doesn't mean like, oh, you have the green light to mess up.
Right.
You have the green light to have a burger once a week because lapse and relapse is inevitable. That's not what we're talking about, right? So there's a difference. But when you have that happen to you, it's okay. It's normal. That means that's your impetus to get back on.
Yes. Yeah. And you don't have to like throw the whole day away.
Right.
You know, it's one meal, one ingredient, whatever, you know.
That's the mindset that hinders a lot of people's behavior change. Like, oh, I messed up, and then throw it all away. Whatever your goal is, no matter what your goal is. If you're trying to journal every day and then you miss one day, you're like, I messed up, so forget. I'll just try again next month, or I'll start again next week. Right. No, start again right now, right this second. This is a new time.
That next meal, yeah, exactly.
Right? So knowing that and being ready to just roll with it and move on. So the 4th key finding, it's a little wordy and there's a lot to it, but maybe we can try breaking it down.
I think the key finding number 4 serves to show that a reduction is a reduction. So it says the typical person reduced their animal product consumption by 42.1 monthly servings over the first 6 months or so of going veg, meaning they ate 41.1 fewer servings of animal products per month by the end of the 6-month study. And so I think that just is like reiterating that there is, because that's a pretty significant reduction. That's almost half. And when you go from the standard American diet, that's a lot to take out, a lot of animal products to take out.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
that's true.
You know, and again, with the like, whatever pace is going to make you successful, that's the right pace for you.
It seems like roughly nobody in the study was perfect.
Right.
Right.
Yes, that's my takeaway too.
So with your first 6 months, for most people, it's about reducing and getting there.
Yeah, the average wasn't overnight and being perfect, no animal products ever again. The average was a significant reduction in their monthly servings of animal products.
Right.
So I think that's, if you're finding it hard, maybe that can be reassuring.
Right. Yeah, that's a good word, reassurance.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so key finding 5, and I find this interesting. Choosing veganism over vegetarianism appears to be more common than it used to be.
Yeah, I found that interesting as well. And I'm wondering if it has to do with people becoming more aware of the dairy industry.
Yeah, I think that, or this is my hypothesis, that it's a matter of more widespread information.
Yes.
Because how we talked about, if we knew everything we know now, back in 2007 when we went vegetarian, we would have just gone vegan.
Exactly.
But we thought going vegetarian was enough or the thing to do or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have lots more information available, whether it's documentaries. We have all these streaming services and YouTube and Instagram and all this stuff.
And more books.
And
because
even more
we went
books.
to the library and got books. And even then, there wasn't a lot in the books that our library had about the dairy industry.
Right. Circa 2007.
Right.
The book, the availability of books was a lot different. So many books have come out in the last 10, 15 years.
Yes.
That have really changed the way we think about how we eat.
Because that was a thing that we struggled with. Let me speak in I statements. That was the thing I struggled with after the family went vegan, is I struggled with almost like a guilt or like my consciousness around, I wish I had done it sooner.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had done it sooner. Like there's so much more that so much more of an impact I could have made had I gone vegan sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to remember the information that I had at the time that I could digest as well.
Right.
Because who knows if I had gotten the dairy information then, if I would have been able to even digest it, because the rest of everything else I had gotten was so much at the time.
Yeah.
So again, it was that level of like, what was I ready for at that time? And I got the information I needed at the time to do what I wanted to do at the time.
That's very true. And I will say I had the exact same guilt and experience with like, I'm so bugged that I didn't just go vegan right away. It was, and I hear a lot of people have similar experiences. A lot of people say that, like your only regret after going vegan is that you didn't do it sooner.
Yes.
Like I see that a lot. So.
Yeah, I have heard that too. And again, with the not alone in that situation.
And the go gentle on yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So key finding 6, this is the last key finding. And another fascinating one that I feel like we
did mention this
already
one.
had this awareness just from our experience. So key finding 6 is that people with spouses or children tended to be further from their veg goals after 6 months compared to unmarried people without children. And this is why we did the whole episode on getting the family on board.
Right.
And talked, tips. Just
not really tricks.
Not tricks. I was trying to look for
no
another
tricks.
Word. Don't try to trick your family.
Really just like how to have the conversations.
Exactly.
And what to say and points. how to make it your own for your reasons. And even if it's not a matter of getting them on board to also be veg with you, at least getting them on board to support you.
Right.
And not sabotage, whether conscious or unconscious.
Or find some middle ground.
Yeah.
Because I think, I hear a lot of stories about like, I would be vegan all the time, but cooking 2 separate meals, one for me and then one for my husband and kids, is too much work and they're not open to it. So I just cook one meal and then I'm vegan all the rest of the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you can get your family on board to just like share a vegan meal with you or like be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Find some middle ground where
or
you're supporting them in their journey. Where they're supporting you in your journey.
Yeah. And I just had this thought where maybe it's a matter of like if it's like a main dish and sides, like, can you remove the meat from the meal and have somebody else in the house cook the meat and just have the meat separate? And whoever wants meat serves themselves the meat.
Right.
And then the main dish or whatever is there for everybody. And so it's not two separate meals. It's one meal separated.
Right. Right.
You know, but actually they have recommendations with these. And one of them, the last recommendation in regards to this finding, number 6, was acknowledge and validate the ways that personal circumstances can make change difficult and provide appropriate support if you can. And so I feel like that's where sometimes some of our podcast episodes have made recommendations on how to have those conversations, ways you can separate, you know, like I just said, where you have one meal that's separated, not two separate meals. So you're not double cooking, because I wouldn't want to double cook either.
No, that's exhausting.
You know,
I don't even want to cook one meal.
Yeah.
Sometimes much less two.
Exactly. One of my friends said, you know, and her family was fine with, like, she wanted to be vegan. She's like, I want to just cook vegan at home. And they were like, okay. And she's like, but you can, if we go out to eat, order whatever you want. And so the family, because she didn't want to cook twice, they were fine with being vegan at home, or like the dad would add a meat that the dad and the kids would eat if they wanted it, or when they go out, they just order whatever they want. And so there's ways. So I feel like there's those kinds of supports and ideas,
right,
that people need those kinds of things. And so I think we have some more suggestions in some podcasts.
Oh yeah, we have tons, especially in the getting the family on board.
Yeah.
And then in the Raising Vegan Kids episode, we talk about how to talk to your kids, or, you know, because a lot of times if you just explain to them why you're doing this, age appropriate, temperament appropriate, of course.
Yes.
They'll be open to it, you know, and if you make good food, kids don't have all these like preconceived notions or these like layers that you have
Younger
to peel
kids
away.
Anyway.
Yeah. They're like, if you make them a yummy bean burrito or a yummy, you know, tostada, they're not like, where's the meat? Like, kids don't think that way. It's not until we get older that we kind of get that idea in our head that we need meat and cheese and milk.
Yeah, that societal conditioning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There was 2 other recommendations. I don't know if we want to necessarily go into them, but one of them was encouraging an early and specific commitment. So, like, if an organization is going to do a pledge campaign around it for being specific. And I feel like we've also talked about that in like that's part of the stages of change, is a specific SMART goal.
Yep. That's what we've talked about that in that stages of change episode, setting a SMART goal.
Yeah.
Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely. That is custom to you as an individual.
Yeah.
That is going to go a long way. And we talked about the power of writing that goal down.
Yes,
right? That's what this research is telling us.
Yeah.
Don't just say you're going to do it or whatever, but like make a pledge, like make it meaningful, sign a contract.
Yeah, and a contract to yourself.
Yeah, like there's no legal ramifications for not going through on it, but if you do that, it like makes it more official in your mind. It's something that happens that makes you more likely to do it. So writing it down, making a contract, journaling about it, like making it real, getting it out of your head and onto paper or some type of document, right?
Yeah. And then their second recommendation plays into that one too, just that instead of using a one-size-fits-all, it's very tailored. And that's what we're talking about with the SMART goals.
Right. And I think that's why sometimes like the, Meatless Mondays doesn't always work, because maybe Mondays is the busiest day for you. And who wants to make that? I mean, it's catchy and it's cool and it's great, but it might not work for everyone who have really busy Mondays. Maybe they want to do a Meatless Friday or something. So not the one-size-fits-all, but the tailored to individuals. Is really going to help. And so, for you as an individual, tailor it to yourself. Find something that works for you.
Yeah.
Whether it's Veganuary, you like to make changes at the beginning of the year, whether it's Meatless Thursdays.
Yeah.
or, Vegan Viernes. Whatever works
you need.
for you.
Yeah.
You can do that.
So, yeah, it was interesting to read. Definitely.
Yeah, but I think, like we spent the whole time talking about the key takeaways, but key takeaways, just kind of recapping, like, do what works for you.
At your own pace.
At your own pace, in your own way.
Yes.
You're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing great. You're more successful than you think.
Yes.
And stay the course.
Yeah.
And keep listening to our podcast. You can get fabulous information and wonderful discussions.
And hopefully we help too. Hopefully we help you stay the course.
Yes, exactly. That's the whole mission.
That's what we're here for.
So, yeah, if you have more questions about anything we talked about, or you want us to go more in depth about any individual, finding or recommendation, let us know, reach out, and, maybe there's something that we want to go more in depth in. And as I mentioned, we'll link the study. It's really interesting, especially if you do outreach of any kind.
Yes, yeah.
Then you'll find
There's
it
a
exceptionally helpful.
Yeah, the link will have sort of the key findings that we went over, but you can read the full text of the study as well.
All right, that's enough research. Next time we'll be back to probably talking about food and recipes and being silly.
Yes.
And fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Good discussion.
Yeah.
Good talk. Interesting stuff.
And it's good to know. I feel like, sometimes people, I think like, well, who am I to talk about this and blah, blah, blah. But then like, oh, look, a study comes out with things we've been saying. Okay, we're not just, talking a bunch of hot air. Right.
No, we have a lot of experience in different ways, from me doing outreach, from our reading, from blah, blah, blah. We put it all together and it's like,
yeah, and it's nice for us to have that reassurance too. As much as the study might help reassure you too, it's like, okay, we're giving you good suggestions.
Right. Yeah. And Faunalytics is gonna put out, I think, 2 more reports based on these findings and this data. So we might do a follow up, even if it's just a short little thing, or follow up as those come out. So I'm looking forward to reading those and.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode because it's kind of a new topic here.
Exactly.
A little bit of research.
If you didn't, let us know that too.
Yeah. No, just keep it to food. Okay, we got you.
Got you. Yeah. So, yeah, as always, we appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. We release new episodes every 2 weeks. You can always email us at plantbased@apnm.org. Check out our website, apnm.org/plantbased for classes, recipes, and more resources.
See you in 2 weeks.